Please welcome
the Simone Feiler Podcast. Subscribe to the channel.
A warm welcome to everyone in the audience.
Like and share the videos to help indie authors get their story out to the people who need to hear them. And welcome to the Simone Feiler Podcast.
Welcome.
Giving authors a platform.
G'day there, Simone Feiler. Welcome to the podcast. Kemi Ekpo is a pastor, psychologist and counsellor who's spent years supporting people navigating the relationship between faith and mental health, particularly in regards to anxiety. Her audiobook, Faith Over Fear, is a 12-week Christian-based cognitive behavioural therapy journey that brings together scripture and practical psychological tools that is also in print and ebook, but I've been very fortunate to work with Kemi on the audiobook. Welcome to the podcast, Kemi.
Thank you, Simone. Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you, and I believe that I'm the first person that's had the privilege of having a podcast with you.
Yes, you are. This is actually my first book, so it's still new in the business. And I think I went the audiobook path when I met with you, and you were able to help with that. I didn't initially think it, but yeah, it's been a pleasure and an amazing opportunity. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I've learned a lot from listening to your audiobook. Being a Catholic Christian myself, it's obviously meant a lot to me. And of course, I've had moments with anxiety. I won't laugh too loud, obviously, but I found it very helpful. But firstly, I wanted to ask, how did the idea of, bringing faith and your profession together?
So I think with that, I'll go back a little bit in time because I was first a pastor before a psychologist. And what that meant was I used to be in a different field before I became a psychologist. I was actually trained as an engineer, and I did practice extensively in that field before I had to change because of family demands and moving and things like that. And I think anxiety was one of the things I kind of not clinically, but struggled with. It's something that it's common to every one of us. You go through things, you wonder the what ifs, what happens next. So when I became as a pastor, I started dealing with that and learning to leave that with God and, trying to use my faith, which was a big part of my journey becoming a psychologist, to help manage that. So fast track, when I became a psychologist, I also ended up meeting quite a few people in the faith as a Christian, and coming in to see a psychologist and being very reluctant, carrying a lot of guilt, carrying a lot of burden about, should I be expressing this? Should I be experiencing this kind of emotions, being a Christian or of any other faith? And, psychologist, what does that mean? How does that look? So meeting with these people, trying to explain to them how both could work together, how you could combine that, and, how both could help you when combined as a stronger protective factor rather than, things to be guilty about or to worry about, became an area of interest. So just talking with clients, I guess, is what prompted the idea. And I know, of course, anxiety is not the only mental health that people struggle with in that space. However, there's quite a few people that are of faith, Christian in my case, that actually struggle with anxiety and have that stigma of really approaching a therapist for help, which is really important. So I thought, doing a workbook that could kind of combine both, explain what both means in layman's term, and how some of the things they could start using even while in therapy was birthed, and the book.
Yeah, awesome. So once you kind of came to the idea that you think this is quite a good idea, how did the 12 steps come to pass? But, and you putting those together?
Okay, so if you look at CBT, there are 12 kind of, mostly you could group our therapy sessions into 12, especially because the mental health plan is 10 weeks, but you could have about 12 sessions, 12 themes. So the book, being 12-week program, is structured within that 12 weeks of which we have the therapy if you're doing normal psychology therapy. Right. So it's not negating. And if you look at the book, the Faith Without Fear kinds of shows how the therapy would look like and how you can then enhance or improve that therapy with faith, because every of those chapters marries both psychological tools and the faith in conjunction with that. So
did something happen in your life that made you think, that the two combined would be a good asset to take to your clients?
Yes, not personally, but I observed, when I'm a counselor in church as well, and when you counsel people, just chipping in, more on the faith, but chipping in on the therapy, it gives more prognosis, more positive prognosis. People are more receptive, happy to receive that when they know that there's actually Bible opinion around that particular thing. So when I've used that with people in counseling, because my background is psychology, but even when talking to someone, counseling someone, and you put in those tools, seems to have a better improved outcome for them than when you talk only of, psychology, which I don't do in church, but also, and another thing, our faith is under the psychology umbrella, is one of our protective factors. So your protective factors are the things that build your resilience and gives you stability and some things you could use to support yourself. So then I thought, if that's coming to see therapist is a protective factor, having faith is a protective factor, why not have the combination of both?
Beautiful. All of your clients aren't obviously Christian that come to see you on a professional level. Do you try and talk to them about faith, or you keep that separate?
No, you could. I sometimes talk to them, but it's not about my faith. So when a client approaches a therapist, it's more about them. It's all about what they want. Even when I meet people with faith, I'm not sitting in session talking about Christianity or what about Bible, but it's about what does that faith mean for you? How do you interpret this problem in the context of your faith? So it could be any faith you come with, but how does that faith enhances that? Or what is that faith? What would your faith say in the space of the things you're going through? So supposing someone loses a job and they think their life is over, for instance, because they have bills. So what would your faith, if you're to go through faith, what will that be saying? Will that be saying, yes, you've lost your job, your life is done? Or will it be saying, look on the positive side? Yeah. So it's about the client and their faith, not necessarily mine. But the book, of course, is written under my faith, because I get a lot of Christians asking about, faith and psychology in my therapy.
So the people that you work with through church and your Christianity and through, that your faith-driven aspects in your life, do they ask you questions like, how does this work with psychology, on the faith front?
Yes, I've actually had, when I started, people asking, how would that combine? Because psychology is evidence and, science dispute the existence of God and things like that. So you're kind of seen as, I would say, somewhat a rebel, but coming to the understanding that as a psychologist, I'm a clinical psychologist, so I've done quite a amount of reading in that space to see that it does not negate. So for instance, psychology will talk about the interaction between your thoughts and what comes out of it, how you behave. And the Bible talks about it as well. Whatever you think on, whatever you meditate on is what becomes you, you're a product of your thoughts. So I started noticing that there are a lot of overlap between these two, and they can actually work well together rather than separating them as individual entities and either trying church, which has a space, or trying just psychologists and negating the importance of that protective factors that comes with having faith. So it's kind of finding a balance with both, because they both have their space in mental health and how they help you get through or deal with anxiety, for instance.
A trailblazer, not a rebel, right?
Yes, yes.
Is there one that you lean towards that serves you better?
In my personal life, I think I kind of don't distinguish anymore. It's blended. So as a Christian, I believe your day-to-day life, everything I do is around my faith, my values. It shapes me. It influences my thoughts. Same thing with psychologists. As a professional, it also influences you. So personally, there's I live both. I can't say, I lean more towards something as I pray hard and I practice my exercises hard. So
Awesome.
it's hard to distinguish with me personally, but when I have clients, it depends on what they are leaning on. It's their journey, it's their story, it's their resources. So you tend to allow clients to lead more in therapy than shaping the direction to which they go.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Obviously, you're very good at your job and very passionate about it and about faith as well. So,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
And that
yeah.
comes through, obviously, talking to you and in your audiobook. So, tell me a little bit about you. You're now living in Australia. You're in
Yeah.
Darwin. Well, not
Yes,
currently, but in Darwin.
yes,
Nice and
yes.
warm up there.
Well, I spoke to a client today in Darwin and she said, "Oh, Kemi, I think we're getting cyclone, so it might not be too warm for long." Yeah, but yes, I came to Australia in 2011. My husband came here first, and then I came in around the end of the year, and I was pregnant, which means it was really hot. That's the build up. But since then, I went back, like I said, I'm an engineer. I went trying to go back into engineering, but it became a bit difficult because of family commitments. I wanted to be there for my kids and my family, but at the same time, the jobs available were more of the flying in, flying out field work.
Yeah.
So I decided I needed to do something different. And I was working with vulnerable people, working with some psychologists. And I thought, oh, I could do better than that. Not being proud, but, I know
Oh,
the
you're
people.
obviously very clearly a go-getter.
Yeah, so I decided to go back to school and started the journey. It's actually 11 years this year that I've started from studying to becoming a clinical psychologist. It's been a double-edged sword. It's really hard, but it's been very rewarding. I've loved every minute of it. Interestingly, my friends would say, "Oh, Kemi will never change for being an engineer," but I love being a psychologist. I've loved being an engineer, and I love even more being a psychologist. So yeah, I have kids. We pastor a church in Darwin. Darwin's life is a lot more quiet than the big cities. So
Yeah.
things you have time to do, a lot of things you want to do. I'm heavily engaged in the church, but I also find time for rest, self-care, big on sports, supporting the children. So yeah,
Oh, what a
that's me.
wonderful human being. So I can see you're a lovely girl, and I'm sure your kids look up to you, and you're an inspiration for them as well as your husband and your greater family, no doubt.
Thank
So,
you.
so you know, with what you're doing and your advice to your children, would you advise them to, go into fields into university to study, or let them kind of say, I'd prefer to go this route, Mum?
Well, I'm going to answer this in a very funny way. There's the context of what we call the African mom. An African mom, we're big on education.
Yeah.
So I have conversations with them. And I do support their passion. One of my first is big on sports. Actually, all of them are big on sports. You support that. But I also encourage them to see the other side of things, because sometimes things don't go out the way. You think you'll be the next Michael Jordan, and that might not, but there are other spaces in which you can. So I do encourage them to chase their passion and build that. But at the same time, I put the word of counsel in the mind. It's good to have many options, like for instance, for myself, and I've used that as an example. Yeah. I thought I'm going to be an engineer for the rest of my life. I loved it. But things happen, life happens. You decide to make a change. You can easily rebrand rather than, sticking on one and having no hope. And of course, becoming a very anxious person because you don't know where you're driving things to. So I would support whatever they choose to do in the end, but I would always encourage anybody that crosses my path, be educated.
Yeah, perfect. So, bringing the topic back to anxiety, like you just said, what do you think in your experience working in this space is the biggest cause of anxiety, particularly here in Australia at the moment?
Look, anxiety could be triggered by anything. Depends on your life, depends on what's happening with you. But what I always say is anxiety is the fear of the unknown. So anything that is unknown causes us anxiety. So the mind needs to know. We have this tendency to want to know. And that's where faith comes in. Because with faith, it's about accepting and believing, even though you've not seen the manifestation. But anxiety, on the other hand, wants the physical evidence so before it can proceed or before it lessens. So in Australia, different things, the economy is hard, things are changing. There's that family dynamics. There's students having anxiety about what their future looks like. There's the family wondering what's next, what's coming up next. There's people that have gone through trauma and they're wondering, how will this end? Will this happen again? So there's diverse reasons for anxiety. A lot of it are the social economic factors that happens in people's lives and homes, and how the fact that we don't know what the outcome will be then could trigger the anxiety. However, we also know that anxiety is biological. So what it means is if we have family histories of people having anxiety, biologically they are prone to being anxious. So what that means will be they would respond to threats or things they don't know as anxious rather than with faith or with problem solving, for instance.
So with anxiety, do you think some people, in regards to faith, I can get quite anxious if I feel like I might miss church or if I'm not doing the right thing, that can sometimes be anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
What do you say to people? What would you say to me?
Okay. So it goes back to what's your belief, what's your context around the church, what's the aim? The Bible says God will not give you a burden that you can't bear. But if you think and you put the stress on yourself that I am expected to do this high because everybody's doing it, you're going to put yourself under anxiety. You're going to be more anxious because you think you're not expecting, or if you have a different, let's say a self-colored interpretation of what God is calling you for. I used to experience something similar. I used to think, maybe I'm not serving enough. And one of the times I was praying, I heard God clearly in my spirit saying, look, because I love to go on the mission field. I've never been to one, mind you, but I love to go. I love to experience that. And that became a thing that burdens me. And I was praying and talking to God about it. And I heard in my spirit, that right now, your children and your family and what you do in the church is your mission field. You don't need to travel abroad. But prior to that time, it was a burden. It was a worry. But now since I heard that and I know that, I feel more calmer to do the best in the things I do now. And I know that when it's time and I have more capacity, I then might have the ability to travel. So it's in that accepting that this is what I have the capacity to do at this point without looking at the other people doing their own thing, and knowing what God has called you to do is what helps with balancing that faith rather than being anxious.
Amazing. Thank you. That was amazing. And so When you were writing, tell me about the writing process and the time that you could put in, or how it all came to you that you needed to get it all out, or how was that?
Oh, wow. I've always thought about it, and way back in secondary school, I would write, scribble little novels and things. I love to watch novels. I'm big on cartoons as well, but when this idea came, I just noted it. Actually, this wasn't the first thing that came to my mind. I was reflecting on my journey to study the Word of God. So the first thing that came to my mind was to do a journal, do a journal, and people could use it with prompts and guide, which is still going to come. I've started working on that. But to do a journal that prompts you on how to study the Word and how to listen to God and what you might expect, and research the Bible yourself. But as I was doing that, I started, when you walk with God, He drops ideas in your mind. And then I started having idea, but there should be other things. There's this more, and there could be this. And that anxiety came into my mind, like, why not first I'm dragging on the journal, but why not do something around anxiety? And I was working a lot at that time with people that are quite anxious. So that kept coming in. So I thought, you know what, I'll leave the journal and I'll start. So I started writing about a year ago, starting the process, just dropping things as it comes, looking at things when something pops in. I note it down. And around, I think it was March, thereabout, or April last year, I got a notice just popped into my Facebook. Do you want to be a writer? Join this masterclass. So I did. And that was how they were more on writing a book rather than low content book, giving resources. The training was all about writing books rather than very low content books. So I felt, okay, now that I've done this training, let's implement it into what I've started. So I had to go back to what do I want? And then the structure of, okay, CBT is structured. I like things structured. So CBT is structured. What is God saying about this individual weekly sessions, that I do to people? What would God say? How does it relate with the Bible? And how can I then put them together? And that's how it started. The writing in the middle of the night sometimes. Sometimes when the kids are in bed.
God driving you to get out and do it in the middle of the night. Yep.
Actually, I did a couple of voiceover, like you're driving and something pops in, like a phrase or a Bible verse. Then I put my phone on record and I say the Bible verse and then pull it out later. So it's been one here, one there, and that's how it came about. And if you remember, even when I sent you the audiobook, I still made a lot of changes because I thought, oh, this phrase would be better, this verse would be better, until, here we are. So
yeah, it's definitely a different perspective once you hear it, isn't it, than when you read it in your mind. But did you trial it on anyone before you decided, okay, we're going to go to print and audiobook? Did you have any, suspects that were there in the wings waiting to give it a go?
Yes. So I did. I gave it to a few professionals. I had a psychologist, actually 2 psychologists read through it, gave me their constructive criticism, which was good. Yeah. We talked about the ethics around it. We talked about, because, the ethics, the structure, the language, is it layman enough? And then after that, I gave the book to a friend to read, just portion, because it's big. They don't want to read the whole thing, but just spread the chapters around. My husband was a big support. He had to listen and read the things.
And listen and read and listen.
Yeah, and because it's not a psychologist, it makes it easier for me to write in the layman's terms, because there's a question of, what does this mean? You didn't define this. And he's a researcher. You didn't define this. I'm like, oh, okay. Then I go back and redefine that. Then I read it. And what point, when I have the whole draft, because I didn't have time to sit at once to read the whole thing, I actually played it on Microsoft Word, you know,
Oh,
to
yeah.
read aloud so I could hear what it sounds like and note things that needed to be corrected. So it was a lot of going over and over and over
Yeah.
until I felt, you know, this is good enough to go
Yeah.
into production, which didn't stay that way because I still edited it while in
Yeah.
production.
I was like, no, not this, from my
Yeah.
perspective. But it was easy. I mean, you set out what you wanted, and I think it's a fabulous book. And obviously, I mean, I encourage authors to self-narrate. You were like, I'm way too busy, and now I know why. Kids, husband, work, what?
Yeah.
Pastor, you are flat out.
Yeah.
But you settled on Ashley
Yeah.
Jurgens to do the narration. Why did you
Yes.
pick Ashley?
I like the voice. One of the links you sent to me had this one. I think she was changing the voice and, you know, mimicking. So I thought, you know, that would be good when you talk about the Bible. Like you read a Bible verse, you don't just want to read it in a flat tone, but that's deep or that high to show the emotions. And at the same time, I gave it to my husband to listen. And then when she did the first part of my book, and I gave it to a friend to listen. She works with radio as well. So I thought, you know, I gave them a few
Yeah,
and I said, which one? And they both picked Ashley.
yeah,
You know, and I said, yeah, that's the one I'm going for because the voice was gentle, it was soft, and it really brought forth the emotions I had or what I could picture in my head, what it should look like
yeah.
when it's in audio. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she did a really great job. She's got a very soothing vocal.
Yeah.
I thought it was really nice. And the
Yeah.
cover artwork, I love your cover. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Okay, that's it was done by it's
Oh,
from my country. Yeah.
okay.
I just thought, oh, I'll try because I know quite a few people are talented. I looked at some of the things, but when we started, he gave me a few things, but I just felt, no, the blue is not deep enough. You know, it's too blue. It feels more cold,
Yeah,
or it's too light. It feels too choppy. You know, like we did a lot of that, and in the texture, and eventually settled on what it was. But he came up with the idea of on the cover, the guy, the person or the figure on the boat
yeah.
and the wave.
The
So the
storm.
waves, yeah, the storm signified, you know, the fear
Yeah,
and life challenges, but still being able to stand in that confident stance, you know,
in the little
through
boat.
that. Yeah. And that was the one and first thing we never both argued about. We both said, yes, he
Yes,
brought this. I'm like, yes, I love it. We
awesome.
played around with the fonts, the text, and then we came up with the idea of the A in the fear as a mountain, which is something again, you know, to cross over that could bring fear, and the faith as a cross, which
Yeah,
is over the mountain. So we played around with a few things, but I'm really, really satisfied
yeah, it's very
with that.
captivating. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it
yeah.
really described what I wanted
Mm,
the book to say, even before you start reading anything.
yeah. And faith over fear. I mean, that's such a captivating heading title for the audio for your book as well. How
Yeah.
did you get on that one?
Yeah, so if you go to layman's term, like I said, anxiety is fear. And it's just saying having faith or faith surpasses, you know, anxiety.
Mm,
Not necessarily saying faith alone, but even for therapy to work, you need to have a bit of faith, isn't it? You
so
need to
true.
have a faith in me that if I tell you to breathe and it will help, if you breathe, it will help.
Yeah,
So the ability to overcome fear is having faith, having trust in something, you know, be it medical, be it psychology alone, be it in your faith alone, but the combination of those things becomes more powerful. So it's just I never thought of any other theme for the book.
mm,
So I would say it's probably guided by the Holy Spirit as well, because I just started writing. I said, I want to write a workbook about anxiety. And that was the only name or the only title that came to my mind. I
yeah.
never practice or try with something else.
It's
It was
yeah,
just, Yeah, the first thing, my first go-to, and that's it.
It's fitting, very fitting. Because, yeah, you're right. Anxiety is fear.
I always use this analogy in therapy. I say to people, if I put you in a dark room and I'm making weird sound and you don't know what's in the room, the first thing will be there will be fear. What's that? What's going on? Am I in danger? Am I safe? But if I tell you, I'm putting you in a room, it's dark, but there are pots, there are pans, the window is open, the curtain is there, and I blindfold you, you will go in thinking, oh, it's probably the pan. It's probably, so you won't be anxious because you already know what is in there. So the moment the unknown becomes known, it reduces your anxiety arousal significantly, and that's reason why you will go in and feel no fear will because you have faith in me that I've told you the truth.
Yeah.
So they just both, I guess, they are besties.
Yeah, that's so cool. So where did faith come to you, first of all?
I was born a Christian. I was born into a Christian family. So I was a Catholic, and then now I'm a Pentecostal pastor. So I've never doubted the power of God. There are times when you don't trust him enough. There are times when you don't believe enough. There are times when you don't live that perfect life that you think he expects of you, that perfection, which is not real. So I've never ever doubted that God is in control of things, at least over my life, and guide my steps, even when I'm not doing exactly what I think he wants me to do, like we all do.
Yep.
So it's something that I was born into and practiced all my life. But I think I've grown in my faith and in my journey with him through experiencing him and really knowing him and trusting in him enough. And I've seen a lot of manifestations of the things he's done in my life, things like changing from engineering to becoming a psychologist, and in the space of 11 years having my own private practice. I've had my private practice now since 2021. So it's not something that I would have ordinarily thought about. I'll give you a testimony. So when I was doing my engineering and I was deciding, I prayed, I cried because I was really broken, and I thought, I've spent so much years becoming an engineer and now I have to give this all up. And I went to God, but I've prayed and I've trusted, and I heard him clearly ask me, did I ask you to do, because I was running a PhD program, like, did I ask you to do a PhD? Did you ask me before you started? And and I spent 2 years trying to do the PhD, and it was hard. So I said, okay, God, I'm sorry, what would you have me do? And I went back to prayer. And when I heard psychology or social work, I had this peace. And even though it was really hard, the journey from starting all over, I had my youngest child during that period. I was doing my honors year.
Yeah, busy.
I had families, I had little kids, but I never had regrets. Not one day did I say, why did I get myself into this? Because I just had this assurance that this is where I need to be at this time and what I need to do. And that's faith, being able to understand when God is leading you and what he's saying in that situation kinds of keep you grounded. So I've always had my faith. I've always believed in God, but my experience with him has grown as I have grown and as I've known him more, as I've met with people like minds, encouraging you, evidences of his power and what he's doing in my life. So,
and things become easier, don't they, when you have faith in God and you know that you're doing the right thing, that you're on the right path with that faith. It's easier and makes you more happier.
Yeah, but not always, because there's always the storm. Remember, but what happens is it anchors you, because you know that if God says this, he will bring it to pass. You might not know the time, you might not know how, but it will manifest. So that gives you the assurance that even though it's hard, but I'm going to be there. I'm going to get there. I'm going to make it. And that's where it becomes easier, like you said. It doesn't mean you won't struggle. It doesn't mean I had to stay up night after night reading. I have to, sleep in the library. I have to do all that. It didn't make it easier that I just read and pass, but it kept me grounded that, you know what, when I do my bit, doing the things I'm supposed to do, God will do his bit. He will honor his words, that which I want and he has promised me will come to. Yeah. So it becomes easier and you are more confident in what you're doing, knowing that you're walking the right path rather than, am I right? Am I wrong? Is this? Rather than the doubt, which then fuel your anxiety as well.
Yeah. You are very clearly love your, profession, and you have deep faith, which is a wonderful combination. I can see it right there in you.
Thank you.
So who do you suggest listens to your audiobook or reads your book?
It's mostly, it could be read by anyone from the age of 14, 15, I guess, because the idea of the book with the faith, and it puts a lot of Bible verses into context, but at the same time, it encourages you to do your own research and grow on your own personal journey with God. So it could be used by anything, but it's more suited for Christians that are struggling with anxiety, for pastors that have to work with people that dealing with anxiety and don't have resources. Is a really good resource. I actually went about the audiobook because most times when I go for my work, I put in other things on YouTube, worship songs, and I thought, you know what, we could actually listen to this as we walk along and do the breathing and do the exercises at the same time. Yeah. So that was how that also came about. But it's good for counselors that are, Christian counselors that identify as Christians, especially in the US where they have the choice to say, I want to talk basically around the Christian faith or, in the church or in group sessions. It can be used as that. But so mostly people with Christian backgrounds dealing with anxiety, anyone, any age till 90.
Yeah. Or anyone even looking to investigate their faith and find out, a little bit more about faith. Definitely.
Yeah. So
how can people contact you if they want to get in touch with you and have a chat? Are you available for the everyday person?
Yes, I have my email there, which is the kemipublishing.com.au.
Do you do online Zooms or
consultations? Yes, I do. Yes. So I practice as therapist, telehealth therapist, phone therapist. Because of the confidentiality, we do use very secure platforms. So I do telehealth, and I do face-to-face. My clinic is currently in Darwin, Top Care Psychology, but I'm also going to have another clinic in Brisbane, Queensland. So that'll be good. But I do telehealth as well.
Awesome. And your book, it is starting to show up online, so people can go out and listen to it. So I think it might even be up on Audible by now. I haven't checked for the last few days, but we've definitely submitted it and it's up and almost.
Yes, thank you. I've not checked the Audible, but I've seen it on Amazon. It's on Amazon.
That's exciting.
The ebook is also out. We're just finishing up on the hard copy. I think it will be more useful if someone gets the audio and the ebook, because you can practice the other exercises. Because the audiobook is more of listening, but the ebook has worksheets and the hard copy has worksheets, has a diagram, has text, has a lot of reflections, exercises you could do. So it will be more effective if you get both the audiobook for when you're on the road driving your car and things like that, and then you do the worksheet later. But they're all online. They're on Amazon. It's out. It's going to be on my website. It's on so many platforms. Thanks to you.
Yeah, I loved working with you. I've learned a lot, and it really did help with my anxiety going through the editing process. So it gives you a good structure to sort of and coping mechanism. So I really appreciated it. I've said to many of my authors, my books seem to come at the right time, and I think I had a calling, so I appreciate working with you.
I'm glad. It's been a pleasure working with you. And to Ashley, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for making your audiobook with us, Kemi, and also for joining me on the podcast today. It's been a
Thank
wonderful
you.
chat. You're a fabulous lady. I've really
Thank you.
appreciated the time today. And if you've enjoyed our conversation, please share the video, like the video. If you know other people that might need to hear this message, then hit the share button and please subscribe to the Simone Feiler Podcast. I'm very fortunate where I get to chat with amazing authors like Kemi, and you never know, the next author I might be chatting with is a message just for you. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Simone Feiler Podcast.
Thanks so much.
Subscribe to the channel, giving authors a platform.
Thank you very much.
And make your audiobook dream a reality with Simone Feiler, the audiobook queen. Find out more at audiobookaustralia.com.
Well, thanking you kindly.